there are moments in life when time stops, not because we choose to pause, but because life chooses for us. A phone call, a message, a moment that changes everything. And suddenly, the world is no longer what it was a second ago. The air feels heavier. The room feels colder. And your heart, it forgets how to beat the same way. This is what loss feels like. It's the sound of silence after a laugh that used to fill the room. It's the ache of memories too sacred to relive and too painful to forget. It's the kind of invisible pain that doesn't show up in scars but never really goes away. And yet, as cruel as it may seem, loss does something no other experience can do. It awakens us. It shakes us by the shoulders and says, this life you're living, it's not forever. This moment you're in, it's not guaranteed. This love you have, hold it like it's the last breath you'll ever take. Because maybe it is. Loss strips us of illusions. It shatters our sense of control. And it forces us to confront the one truth we spend our entire lives trying to avoid. Everything we love, everything we build, everything we cling to, one day will be gone. But in that terrifying truth lies the most beautiful realization that if nothing lasts forever, then every moment matters more. We stop rushing past the sunrise. We start noticing the way our mother's voice softens when she says our name. We stop complaining about the rain and start dancing in it. We hold hands longer. We say, I love you with more intention. We laugh louder, cry deeper, and forgive faster, because when you've lost something or someone truly precious, you understand that life isn't measured in years. It's measured in presence. It's not the number of breaths you take, but the number of times your breath is taken away. By beauty, by truth, by connection. And here's the paradox. The people who felt the deepest pain are often the ones who love the most fiercely, not because they're naive, but because they know what it means to live without, to miss a smile, to long for a voice they'll never hear again, to trace the memory of a hand they can no longer hold. And so they cherish what they have while they have it. They don't take love for granted. They don't postpone joy. They don't wait for someday, because loss taught them that someday is not a promise. It's a myth. The only thing we ever really have is now. And that awareness, it becomes a superpower because it changes how you show up. You stop living on autopilot. You start living on purpose. You look your loved ones in the eyes and say things you used to think you had time to say tomorrow. You pursue dreams with urgency, not because you're afraid of dying, but because you finally understand the value of living. You embrace the small, quiet moments, the smell of your child's hair, the warmth of a coffee mug on a winter morning, the peace in your partner's embrace as sacred rituals of the human experience. Loss, as brutal as it is, gives us back our gratitude. And gratitude, that's the foundation of joy. You cannot be grateful and miserable at the same time. You cannot appreciate and resent at once. Gratitude reframes your reality. It says, yes, I've lost, but look at all I still have. Yes, they're gone, but I got to love them and be loved by them. Yes, it hurts, but this pain is proof that something mattered. Because the only reason we feel deep grief is because we once felt deep love, and that love is never wasted. It echoes. It shapes us. It becomes a part of who we are. Every person we lose leaves behind pieces of themselves inside us. Their laugh, their wisdom, their courage, their kindness. Their energy doesn't disappear. It transforms. And sometimes when the world is quiet enough, you can still feel them walking beside you, not in the way they used to, but in the way you carry yourself now. That's the hidden gift of loss. It doesn't just teach us how to grieve. It teaches us how to live with more depth, with more presence, with more reverence for this one sacred, fleeting life. And so if you're grieving right now, if you've loved and lost, if your heart feels broken and your hope feels fragile, I want you to know this. You are not broken. You are breaking open. You are not falling apart. You are being rebuilt. Pain is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a deeper one where you learn to love more purely, one where you see life with new eyes, one where you walk slower, speak softer, and love harder. Because once you face the truth that everything ends, you begin to truly cherish everything that hasn't yet. And that's what this story is about. Not about the loss itself, but what loss unlocks inside you. The presence, the purpose, the passion to live fully while you still can. So keep walking, keep remembering, keep loving, because this life, this one precious, messy, beautiful life, it's a gift. And the deepest loss just might be the thing that finally teaches you how to unwrap it. They say time heals all wounds, but time doesn't heal what you ignore. Time doesn't patch holes you refuse to feel. Time only gives you space to decide who you'll become in the silence that follows the storm. And grief isn't a wound you cure. It's a wound you carry. And in carrying it, you either close yourself off or you open yourself wide enough to let life back in. Let's get honest. Loss doesn't just take someone from you. It takes you from you. It shakes your identity. You're no longer the person you were before that moment. You can't unsee what you saw. You can't unknow what you now know. You now know what final looks like, what empty feels like, what goodbye truly means. It doesn't just break your heart. It breaks your patterns, your expectations, your illusion that tomorrow will always come. And yet that's where something incredible begins. Because in that space of nothingness, you have the rarest opportunity to rebuild your soul with intention. You get to choose what stays, what matters. And what never did, you learn that most of what you used to worry about was never real. The opinions of strangers, the status games, the noise, all of it meaningless. Because when you stand face to face with death, even for a moment, you gain a clarity the living often lack. You see the truth. That life is not about what you have. It's about how you live. It's not about your bank account, your job title, or how many people liked your post. It's about how deeply you listened, how honestly you loved, how present you were with the people who mattered most. That's what loss reveals. It cuts through the superficial like a blade, and it leaves you holding only what's real. Pain has a way of waking us up. It snaps us out of our routines. It dismantles our plans. It asks, without mercy, what are you doing with this one short life? And that's not a rhetorical question. Because now you know too much to go back to sleep. You've seen how fragile it all is. How one heartbeat can separate a moment of laughter from a lifetime of longing. So what do you do with that knowledge? Do you retreat? Do you build higher walls around your heart so you never feel that pain again? Or do you decide to live even louder, to love even deeper, to show up for your life every single day like it's a sacred invitation? Because here's the truth. Most people avoid love is always a risk. To love is to make peace with the fact that one day you may lose. But to never love is to already have lost. We don't protect ourselves from pain by numbing joy. We protect ourselves by expanding our hearts so wide that even grief becomes a form of grace. You start to see loss differently. Not as a punishment, but as a portal to a new way of being, a deeper level of gratitude, a more awakened existence. You begin to notice the little things again. The way your child's fingers wrap around yours. The way your dog greets you like you're the most important person in the world. The way your partner's eyes crinkle when they laugh. You no longer take it for granted because now you know you're borrowing time. And borrowed time is sacred. Borrowed time is what the sunrise is made of. It's what gives a kiss its magic. It's what makes every I love you feel like a miracle. Loss doesn't harden you unless you let it. Loss can become the very thing that softens you to life. It humbles you. It reminds you that none of us are here forever, that you are not entitled to tomorrow, that every breath is a blessing. So you begin to treat people differently. You speak more gently. You listen more fully. You hug more often. You forgive faster, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You let go of old grudges that used to feel so important, and you realize that peace is more valuable than being right. You trade bitterness for compassion. You stop assuming people are rude and start realizing they might just be hurting. Because grief taught you empathy. It taught you that everyone is carrying something. Everyone is fighting a battle you can't see. Everyone at some point will know the pain you now carry. And when that day comes, they'll need someone who understands, someone who's been there, someone who won't rush them to get over it, but will sit with them in the dark until the light begins to return. That someone could be you. That's how loss becomes a gift, not just to you, but through you. It makes you more human, more open, more present. It reminds you that life isn't about being unbreakable. It's about being real, raw, tender, and completely awake, because this right here, this is your life. Not the life you'll live when you get the promotion. Not the life you'll start when you lose the weight. Not the life you'll finally enjoy when you find the one. This is it. This moment, this breath, this laugh, this tear, this hug, this chance to say what you feel before it's too late. That's the wisdom loss gives you. It doesn't hand you answers. It hands you perspective. And that perspective, it's everything. It's what transforms an ordinary day into a miracle. A regular conversation into sacred communion, a simple meal into a feast of gratitude. So if you're walking through the pain of loss right now, don't run from it. Don't numb it. Don't bury it. Let it shape you. Let it open you. Let it teach you to live more fully than ever before. Because the ones we've lost, they wouldn't want us to shrink. They wouldn't want us to go through the motions. They wouldn't want us to just survive. They'd want us to cherish life, to soak it in, to live boldly, to love generously, to carry them not as a burden, but as a light. And every time you choose presence over distraction, gratitude over entitlement, connection over isolation, you honor them. You keep their love alive, not just in memory, but in the way you live. You never forget the moment your world changes. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't ask if you're ready. It just happens. A phone call, a diagnosis, a goodbye you didn't know would be the last. And suddenly, silence, the kind of silence that isn't quiet, it screams, the kind of silence that rearranges your soul. You stand in the aftermath of what used to be, trying to hold the pieces of yourself together, trying to make sense of what feels senseless. And it's there in that ache, in that sacred ground of loss, that something extraordinary begins to take root. A seed that wasn't there before. Not when life was predictable, not when you thought forever was guaranteed. It's the seed of awareness, not intellectual awareness, not something you read in a book or hear in a speech, but a raw, embodied spiritual awareness that shakes your core and whispers, nothing is promised, so everything is precious. You begin to see life differently. It's no longer a race to win, it's a gift to experience. And that shift, it's not weakness, it's strength, because it takes real strength to keep loving after loss. It takes strength to wake up and face a world that looks the same, but feels completely different. It takes strength to keep your heart open, even when it's been shattered. But that's what loss does. It burns away the shallow. It strips you of your illusions. And what's left? Only what's real, only what matters. And you start to notice the strength that was always inside you, the kind of strength that's not loud or flashy, but steady like a heartbeat, like the sunrise that shows up every morning, even after the darkest night. You realize you don't have to pretend you're okay. You don't have to fake your way through pain. Real strength isn't found in pretending. It's found in presence, in the courage to say, I'm not okay today, but I'm here. I'm still breathing. I'm still showing up. I'm still loving, even though it hurts. And in that vulnerability, there's power. Because the moment you stop fighting your pain, the moment you stop running from it, you find that it's not your enemy. It's your teacher. Grief is a sacred guide. It leads you inward deeper than you've ever gone before. It holds up a mirror and asks you questions you've spent your whole life avoiding. Who are you without them? What do you truly value? What does it mean to live fully when you know how easily it can all disappear? And slowly, you begin to answer not with words, but with how you live. You stop waiting for permission to chase your dreams. You stop waiting for the perfect moment to say, I love you. You stop waiting to forgive, to speak truth, to show up as the fullest version of yourself, because now you understand there is no perfect moment. There is only now, and you are still here. That truth alone becomes your revolution. You begin to make choices from a different place, not from fear, not from obligation, but from love. Love for yourself, love for those who are still here, love for those you've lost, whose voices still echo in your soul. You see, grief never really leaves, but it does change form. At first, it's a storm that knocks you down. Then it becomes a shadow that follows you around. But eventually, it becomes a companion, not a weight, but a reminder of how deeply you loved, a reminder of what truly matters, a reminder that your heart is still beating, and as long as it does, you have something sacred to give. You stop looking at life as a checklist. You start living it as a prayer. Every meal shared with a friend becomes communion. Every laugh with your family becomes a hymn. Every quiet moment of reflection becomes sacred ground. That's the gift. The fragility that once terrified you becomes the very thing that gives life its beauty. A flower is beautiful because it doesn't bloom forever. A sunset is sacred because it fades. A heartbeat is precious because one day it will stop. And knowing that doesn't make life sadder. It makes it more alive. You begin to slow down, to savor, to see again the way the wind feels against your skin, the sound of your mother's voice, the way your child calls your name when they're excited. You no longer rush past these things because now you understand these are the things, this is the miracle right here, right now. You don't need to search for meaning in some faraway place. You don't need to become someone else to live a worthy life. You just need to show up fully, honestly, gratefully. You just need to be present for the people you love, for the work that fulfills you, for the life you still get to live. Because you get to live, that's not something to take for granted. It's something to cherish. So you carry their memory like a compass. You let it guide you toward what matters. You make choices not from fear of loss, but from the joy of having loved at all. You let grief become grace. You let sorrow become strength. You let your brokenness become beauty, not by ignoring your pain, but by honoring it, by letting it transform you into someone more open, more awake, more alive. Because life isn't just about surviving the hard things. It's about allowing those hard things to open your heart so wide that the light pours in even through the cracks. Some truths don't arrive with celebration. They don't come wrapped in inspirational glory. They arrive through fire, and loss, real soul-shifting loss, is one of those fires. It burns away your assumptions. It tears through your attachments. It melts every illusion that you ever had about control. And when the fire settles, what's left? You, just you. No masks, no pretending, no roles to play or parts to perform. Only the raw, vulnerable truth of who you are. Loss strips life down to its essence. It removes the noise, the endless chasing, the idea that we are owed something by time, by fate, by the universe. Loss teaches you something that no comfort ever could. Nothing is guaranteed. Not tomorrow, not the next conversation, not even the next breath. And while that may sound terrifying, there is also something strangely beautiful about it. Because when you truly accept the impermanence of everything, you stop clinging and you start cherishing. You stop numbing yourself with distraction and start feeling every part of life more vividly. You drink your coffee slower. You hold your loved ones longer. You speak your truth more freely. You forgive faster because you realize grudges are bricks you carry while drowning in the ocean. Loss teaches you to travel light. And perhaps that's the point. Not to live a life burdened by everything you can't control, but to live free in the few sacred things you can. Your words, your presence, your love. Let me ask you something that loss always asks in silence. What are you waiting for? What are you postponing until someday? What I love you is still unsaid. What dream are you deferring until it's too late? Because there's something cruel about how we live. We act like we have time. We act like the people we love will always be there. We assume that the conversation we avoided will have another day and that our lives will unfold exactly as we planned. But the truth is, life is not a rehearsal. This is it. This moment, this heartbeat, this breath. There is no dress rehearsal for goodbye. There's only the now and what you do with it. So let me tell you something you may not hear enough. You don't need a tragedy to start cherishing your life. You don't have to wait for someone to leave before you tell them they matter. You don't have to lose everything before you realize you already have so much. Wake up before the loss. Choose gratitude before the grief forces you into it. See the beauty now, not when it's gone. Because here's the paradox of pain. The very thing that breaks you can also be the thing that builds you. History is full of those who found their calling through heartbreak. Edison failed 0 times before inventing the light bulb, but it was his resilience in the face of failure that changed the world. Lincoln lost elections, lost children, lost faith in himself, but still rose to lead a divided nation. Helen Keller lost her sight and hearing, yet became a voice for millions. Every one of them turned their loss into legacy. Because pain, when faced with honesty, becomes purpose. And that's what you're capable of. Not just surviving, but alchemizing. Turning your sorrow into service. Turning your emptiness into empathy. Turning your questions into a quest. You don't need to have all the answers. You just need to let your scars guide you to something deeper. Your broken heart is not your weakness, it's your key. It's the very thing that makes you human. And being human isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about holding space for joy and sorrow side by side. It's about laughing even with tears in your eyes. It's about dancing with your ghosts instead of running from them. Because eventually you realize you are not what you've lost. You are what you've become because of it. You are the one who stayed, the one who breathed through it, the one who grew even in darkness. That deserves honor. That deserves recognition. That deserves your own love. You're not broken. You're blooming in a different season. Yes, you've changed. How could you not? But change does not mean ruined. It means reborn. It means wiser, more present, more awake to the small things that make life sacred. And isn't that the greatest lesson of all? That in the end, it's never the big moments that define a life, but the small ones we paid attention to, the way your child's hand fits in yours, the way your dog waits by the door when you're gone, the way your partner breathes beside you in sleep, the voice of your mother still echoing in your memory. The people you've lost, they live in those moments. They live in you. Every time you choose kindness instead of anger, compassion instead of indifference, gratitude instead of complaint, they live through your love. You become the legacy they left behind. So don't let their passing be the end of the story. Let it be the beginning of yours. The one where you stop sleepwalking through life. The one where you woke up, where you chose to be here. Where you chose to see, to feel, to live with eyes wide open. Because that's the lesson loss teaches us. That life is not something to be understood. It's something to be loved. Even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because that pain, it's proof that your heart still works. It's proof that you are still alive. And as long as you are alive, you have a chance to turn that pain into power, that sorrow into softness, that love into something eternal. Grief is the shadow of love. It doesn't come for the things you never cared about. It doesn't rise in the places you never felt deeply. Grief is the echo left behind by a love that once filled the room and now only lives in memory. But here's the truth. No one tells you until your heart is shattered. Grief is love's witness. It's not a flaw in the system. It's not a sign that you're weak. It's not something to rush through, numb out, or get over. It's sacred. It's real. It's the cost of having let your heart be fully open. And if that's the cost, would you rather have never loved at all? Because the depth of your grief is just the measure of your capacity to love. It's your humanity, raw and unfiltered, standing in the storm. No filter, no armor, just truth. The world teaches us to hide it, to smile and move on, to pretend we're okay so others feel comfortable around us. But grief doesn't work on anyone else's timeline. You can't rush what your soul needs to honor. You can't skip the ache that wants to teach you something. You sit with it, you breathe through it, you let it move in waves, unpredictable, messy, and often inconvenient. But within those waves is wisdom, because grief isn't just a storm, it's a compass. It points you back to what mattered, to who mattered, to what parts of your life were truly alive. It reminds you that meant something, that love was real. And real love never leaves without leaving something behind. Maybe it's a memory that still makes you smile in the middle of your tears. Maybe it's a habit you picked up from someone who's gone, the way you stir your coffee, the way you laugh, the way you pause before saying something kind. Maybe it's a strength you never knew you had until they left and you had to stand on your own 2 feet. Or maybe it's a voice in your heart that says, keep going. You still have something beautiful to give. And you do. Because grief isn't the end of the love story. It's the continuation of it. It's love with nowhere to go. So it transforms into art, into growth, into a deeper appreciation for the moments you still have. You start to notice things you used to miss, like the silence between words, the sunlight through the window, the way someone holds your hand, even if just for a second. You don't rush through conversations anymore. You look people in the eyes longer. You stop checking your phone during dinner. You tell people what they mean to you without waiting for the right moment. Because loss has stripped away the illusion of endless time. And in its place, it has given you presence, the gift of now. You begin to live with a kind of reverence. Not because you're afraid, but because you finally see that every second is sacred. Every goodbye is a ceremony. Every hello is a gift. Every ordinary moment is touched by the extraordinary if you're awake enough to feel it. And when people ask you how you're doing, you don't just say fine anymore. You pause, you speak with intention, you allow yourself to be real, to say you're still learning, still healing, still holding space for joy and pain to coexist. Because they do. And that coexistence, that's where your power lives now. You're not waiting for the grief to go away to feel happy again. You're learning to carry both, to walk with joy in one hand, sorrow in the other, and a heart still open in between. You're becoming someone new, someone softer, not weaker, stronger, not colder, more alive, not in spite of the pain, but because of it. Because you know something most people don't. That time is not promised. That life is not a given. That love is the only thing that outlasts us. So you begin to live accordingly. You don't hoard your affection. You don't wait to write that letter. You don't assume they'll be there tomorrow. You say what you need to say now. You show up even when it's inconvenient. You love even when it hurts. And somehow, in doing so, the grief begins to soften, not because the pain disappears, but because it transforms into a deeper connection with life itself, into a quiet knowing that loss does not mean the love is gone. It just means it's now your turn to carry it forward. And that's where purpose begins. In the decision to turn pain into presence, to live in honor of what you've lost, to become someone who cherishes life, not because it's perfect, but because it's fleeting, and that makes it precious. Now that loss has cracked you open and grief has poured through the cracks, you stand with two choices. You can curl into the corners of your pain and wait for the world to notice, or you can rise using that very pain as the mortar for a new foundation. Loss doesn't just teach you gratitude, it demands purpose. It insists you transform your sorrow into service, your emptiness into empathy, your questions into quests. Because there is no more powerful purpose than the one born from loss. Think of Malala, who survived an attack and then dedicated her life to education. Think of Nelson Mandela, imprisoned yet devoted to freedom. Your loss is your call to action. You've felt your heartbreak. You've known what it is to stand in the rubble of your own life. And now you are uniquely equipped to build something meaningful out of the wreckage. Purpose is not a lofty ideal. It's the simplest decision. To use your story of every heartbreak, every tear as a beacon for someone still lost in the dark. How do you begin? Start small. Offer a listening ear to someone in pain. Share your story so others know they're not alone. Volunteer for a cause that resonates with your loss. Create art, write, speak whatever lets your brokenness breathe beauty. Each act of service polishes the scars into a map that shows the way home for those still wandering. And here's the secret. When you give yourself away in service, you find yourself. You find connection that transcends absence. You find healing that isn't an erasure of pain, but an elevation of it. This is how loss becomes legacy, not through remembering what was taken, but through celebrating what remains and growing it. Loss carved out space in your heart. Fill that space with purpose. Because life's truest measure isn't how much you accumulate, but how deeply you give. And your pain, your story, your survival, those are gifts the world needs now. Keep walking, keep building, keep giving. Your purpose awaits. Resilience isn't bouncing back, it's growing through. And there is no richer soil for that growth than remembrance. Each memory of what was lost is like a fuel reserve in your spirit. It reminds you of your capacity to feel, to love, to endure. When the winds of life howl and loss threatens to uproot you, remember the laughter that filled empty rooms. Remember the dreams you once shared. Remember the gentle touch, the guiding words, the moments that erupted in joy. These memories are not chains, they are anchors. They ground you to the truth that life, even in its impermanence, is magnificent. They remind you that you've carried the weight of sorrow before and you have emerged stronger. Resilience grows when you honor those memories, not as relics of pain, but as signposts that point toward your inner strength. The next time you feel small before the trauma, call upon those memories and let them whisper, you loved once, you survived once, and you can again. So cultivate resilience by remembrance speed, treating memory as a source of power rather than a wound. Create rituals, light a candle, speak the names, tell the stories. Each ritual is a testament. Love endures, you endure. From the ashes of loss, new roots spread deep. In the wake of loss, joy can feel like a betrayal. You whisper to yourself, how can I laugh when my heart is broken? But joy and grief are not opposites. They are two sides of the same sacred coin. Just as sorrow springs from love's depth, so does joy. The same heart that cracks open in pain can also bloom in delight. Consider how the lotus rises. It pushes through the mud, emerges into the light, and unfolds its petals in perfect beauty. Your joy is the lotus, growing out of the murkiest waters. To embrace joy again is not to forget what was lost. It is to honor that loss by living fully, by allowing your wounded heart to heal through moments of light. It begins with permission to feel happiness without guilt. Permission to smile without thinking you're being disloyal to your pain. Permission to fill your life with colors again, even if the palette now includes shades of gray. This permission is an act of bravery. It declares, I am not defined by my sorrow alone. I am still alive, still capable of love, and love includes the capacity to be joyous. When you laugh, part of you remembers what it means to feel alive. That laughter becomes a form of resistance against despair, against numbness, against letting loss freeze your soul. Smile at a stranger. Let that spark of connection kindle warmth in your chest. Dance in your kitchen. Allow the rhythm of the music to awaken the cells in your body. Watch a child play. Rediscover the wonder that once came effortlessly. In these acts, you learn that joy is not something to chase, it is something to allow. And as you allow joy, you cultivate resilience. Because joy and sorrow can coexist within you, and that coexistence is the truest testament to your strength. Every time you choose laughter over tears, you break a cycle. You remind your nervous system that it can handle contrast, that light and dark can live harmoniously in one soul. At first, joy may feel foreign. It may arrive in fleeting glimpses like a gentle breeze in a storm. Cherish those moments. They are signposts pointing to your healing. Over time, joy will grow in stature. It will stand beside grief, not overshadow it, but share the stage in balanced harmony. That's the promise of a heart that dares to feel again. Because grief never meant to steal your joy. It meant to deepen it, to reveal that your capacity to suffer is matched by your capacity to rejoice. So give yourself permission today, permission to play, to laugh, to embrace the gift of a smile. And in that smile, discover that life is still unequivocally worth loving. In the sacred dance of life and loss, we find ourselves circling back to what began it, all the breath. For every story of sorrow, there is a story of breath. The inhalation of grief that felt like drowning, and the exhalation of grace that carried you forward. Now, in this final circle, we return to the breath to awaken a truth more powerful than any pain, that life persists, love endures, and every ending is an invitation to begin again. Think of the most brilliant sunrise you've ever witnessed. You don't arrive at dawn by wishing for day. You arrive by holding vigil through the night, heart open, eyes alert, spirit ready. That vigil was your sorrow. Your tears were the tears of the night sky. And your rising, it is the day that cannot be denied. So here in this final part, we trace the arc from loss to living, from heartbreak to hope, from the ashes to the altar of your new life. We celebrate what was and what yet will be. 1. The breath of remembrance. Your first task is to reclaim the breath you held in the moment of loss. That breath was your anchor, the silent witness to your pain, the quiet testament to your survival. Now, take that breath back. Inhale deeply, gather the fragments of memory, the echoes of laughter, the weight of absence. Exhale fully, release the shackles of regret, the what-ifs, the if-onlys. Each cycle of breath is a covenant with yourself. I honor what was, I choose what is, I believe in what can be. 2, the bridge of connection. Loss can isolate, it can make you feel like a lone island in a stormy sea. But remember, every island is part of an archipelago. You are never truly alone. Reach out, tell your story, speak your truth, Let your vulnerability become a bridge that connects you to others, because your pain transformed by purpose becomes the thread that binds hearts together. Every confession, every tear shared, every moment of empathy weaves a tapestry of resilience across the human family. 3. The light of learning. Your grief has taught you lessons no classroom ever could. That every moment is fragile, that love is your greatest wealth, that presence outranks productivity. These are not high-minded cliches, they are hard-won truths. Now let these lessons be the lamp that lights your next steps. Let them guide your choices, inform your values, and shape your legacy. For the only way to honor those you've lost is to learn from them and then to teach others through the brilliance of your example. 4. The ceremony of celebration. To move forward, you must celebrate what life has given you and will yet give. Create your own rituals of gratitude. Write letters of thanks to the people who stood by you. Plant a tree in their memory. Host a gathering where stories flow like wine, bittersweet and beautiful. Celebrate the milestones big and small with intentionality. Gratitude transforms the ground beneath your feet from rubble into a home where hope can flourish. 5. The call to courage. Each new day is an invitation to courage. It's easy to be brave when skies are clear, but true courage is tested when darkness returns. Will you still wake up and take that breath? Will you still choose connection when storms rage? Will you still celebrate when the echoes of loss threaten to silence your song? Courage is simply love in action, the willingness to keep loving and living and leaping, even when the ground feels unsteady. 6. The promise of possibility. Now stand at the threshold of your next chapter. Past pain no longer defines you, it refines you. Loss has carved a place inside your heart where empathy, wisdom, and gratitude grow. That space is fertile. It is where your greatest contributions will take root. What seeds will you plant here? Dreams you once thought too big, acts of compassion you long withheld. The promise of possibility is yours to claim. 7. The embrace of eternity. Finally, remember, life and loss form a circle that stretches beyond time. The people you loved and lost live own in your actions, your stories, your love. Each day you choose to live fully, you honor their legacy. Each kindness you offer, each moment you savor, each barrier you break becomes an extension of their spirit. In this way, you transform mortality into immortality, your life a living monument to the power of love. Conclusion. Your journey through loss has been your greatest teacher. It has taught you to cherish every breath, to connect with a depth you never knew, to learn lessons etched in pain, to celebrate life's fragile beauty, to summon courage in the face of fear, to believe in the promise of what comes next, and to embrace the eternal bond that transcends disappearance. If this story resonated with you, if it stirred your heart and awakened your soul, join us on this journey. Subscribe to this channel for cinematic motivational stories that speak to the deepest parts of our humanity. Share this video with someone who needs to know their grief can become their grace. Together, let us breathe again, live again, love again, and build a world illumined by the wisdom only loss can teach. Your journey is sacred. Your life is a gift. And the road ahead, though unseen, shines ever brighter with each step you take. Thank you for walking with me. Until the next story, keep breathing, keep believing, and keep cherishing every precious moment.